Passion, purpose, possibilities. They're all right there. But sometimes we need a little push. And that's where SheSez comes in. Think of it as a master class taught by the world's most interesting women, sharing stories and ideas, because girlfriends help each other. This is SheSez with Linda Grasso. Hello and welcome to SheSez. While many designers create androgynous designs or other trends of the moment, Rachel Pally stays true to the luxe dresses, wide leg pants, and feminine tops that put her on the map some 15 years ago. Her line, which now includes plus sizes and maternity, can be found at stores like Neiman Marcus and Pea in the Pod, as well as on her website, rachelpally.com. Her apparel is manufactured at a plant in her hometown of Los Angeles, and that is where she is raising her two children. Rachel, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I love reading about you and your story of how originally you had your sights set on being a dancer.
I have a degree from Berkeley in modern dance, and I thought I would. That's actually how I got into fashion, because I had to work in the costume shop and I had to make these costumes for the dancers out of stretchy fabric that could drape and move with the dancers, and I fell in love with making the costumes. That's how I got into fashion.
So how did you actually know that you had talent? And did you
Oh,
were
I
you
didn't
selling
have
the
talent. You should see the things I made. They were really funny. I just kind of went with it. I was just not afraid of it being not perfect, and also because it was costumes that were to be seen from a distance. They didn't have to be perfect up close, and since they could be body hugging, I just kind of cut and stitched them until it sort of worked.
And what year was this in college? Is this your freshman year, your senior year?
This is my junior and senior year of college, so 2001, 2002.
Did you change your major?
No, I have a degree in geography, which is very
I love hearing about people's
useful.
degrees. It seems so random, but I always ask people.
It is so random. Yeah, I have a degree in cultural geography from Berkeley with a minor in modern dance, both of which are not utilized in my day-to-day life anymore. But
Okay, so we'll have to delve into that. You never know how the geography could come into play. So you get out of college and you go to get your first job. And how did you start selling clothes?
well, when I was still in school, I started to make clothes for myself and my girlfriends just on the kitchen table with remnants I could get from the little local fabric shop in Berkeley. And I really liked making clothes, and my girlfriends were wearing them. And once I was down visiting my parents in LA, and I walked into a store in Chinatown. There were like all these galleries and little shops in this little stretch of Chinatown. And the woman said, "I really love your dress. Where'd you get it?" And I said, "I made it." And she said, "Oh, well, do you have anything else I can see?" And I said, "Yes, I have my bag of laundry in the car. I will bring it in." So I grabbed my bag of laundry, which of course I brought home because I was coming home to visit my parents, and brought it in. And she said, "You should make me things and send them and I'll sell them." And so I started just making things when I was still up in school and sending them to her in Chinatown, and she would sell them. And towards the end of my time at school, she said, "This is really working. Why don't you give it a try?" So I moved home, and I didn't really have a plan what I was going to do. I thought maybe I'd get a master's and go into academia. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And my mom bought me a roll of black fabric and a roll of white fabric for my birthday in the summer. And I started just cutting stuff and sewing it in my bedroom. And that is how I got started.
So
crazy. It's so crazy.
when you were selling it to the lady in Chinatown, and then you started selling it other places, was it called Rachel Pally, or were you doing it
called
into
Rachel Pally. I had drawn out my signature, and Pally is my mom's maiden name, and I had drawn out my signature, and I had a stamp made in Berkeley at this little mailbox shop, and I was stamping it with permanent ink onto a ribbon and stitching it into the back of the neck or wherever on the garments. And I took some photos on my brother's high school girlfriend and started shopping it around to the top stores in LA. I was 22. I was totally fearless. I was confident. I didn't really care if someone said no. It didn't shut me down. I just would keep looking for a yes. So I that I just started calling Madison and Planet Blue.
And it's your stores in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that are still here and still really great stores. But I just kept calling people until they would see it. And when they saw it, they were buying it, which was crazy.
So you started selling to Planet, like you were in your early 20s at that stage.
Yeah, I was 22.
Wow, that's amazing. And then you had a lucky break.
Yes. Well, pretty early, I found a showroom which is basically a sales team that would represent the brand that was also just starting. It was both sales and PR in the same office. So they would be able to sell it and also place it for magazines. And they were looking for new brands to start with since they were also new. And pretty quickly, I got Jessica Simpson when she was the queen. Started wearing the clothes and my phone was ringing off the hook. We couldn't keep things in stock. It was an amazing start. And pretty quickly it was all the major celebrities of the day who were wearing it. And that was really driving traffic. So it was always, I was always in Us Weekly or People. And
right. Those were the days before Instagram, when you tried to get a celebrity shot. Just out of curiosity, did you have to pay for those shots?
No, but no, because it wasn't like I would reuse them the same way that you would now, because I didn't even have my own website because people didn't have. I sold to Shopbop, Revolve. I don't know if it even existed then, but definitely not the way that it is now. But their online business was really just starting. So even the majors didn't, even like the main department stores didn't have a really great website platform. So this all happened before. Now things can go viral so fast, but then it was every week we would check our celebrity magazines and see who was wearing it.
So when you had Jessica Simpson wear your item, sales went up. Did you then hire people, more sewing machines? Like at what point were you able to open your plant in downtown Los Angeles?
So I have sample sewing and cutting in-house, but I work with a factory that's in the neighborhood, and I've been working with the same guy for 12 years or something. But so yes, in the beginning, it was just me. Then I had an intern, and then I had an assistant, and I just kind of was young and eager and worked 24 hours a day. And my parents were like taping boxes for me in the garage, and like my grandma was sewing in labels, and it was this collaborative effort that I had this amazing support system. So then as I started to grow, I added to the team, and that's just, since then you just keep adding when you need it.
Yeah. Was it scary for you when you started growing really quickly like that? I mean, did you worry, wow, am I overextending myself? Am I going to be able to pay all these people? What if I have a bad season?
Yes. I had a lot of anxiety. It was really scary. And I was 22. Then I was 23. I had to make a living will. I was a baby having to sit in a room full of attorneys and talk about real things. And I didn't feel like I was ready to even have those types of conversations. And then being worried about, I have all these people who are depending on me financially for their own livelihood, and how can I have that? It was a very anxious period. There was a period in my mid-20s where there was a lot of pressure, but I just handled it. I just kept going, and I kind of adjusted to that being part of what the life of an entrepreneur is, that sometimes it's scary, and also sometimes that fear can be very motivating and exciting. It doesn't always have to be just scary bad. Sometimes it can be scary good.
Mm-hmm. So, did you ever make any big mistakes way back then?
Oh my God, I've made so many big mistakes. I have made not nothing but mistakes. Obviously, I'm still here, but because I don't have a degree in fashion, I had no experience in this. There was so much, and it was before Google. There was this book you could buy for $100 or something called the Fashion Institute. It was like a big Xeroxed spiral bound book you could buy that had business cards Xeroxed in it, that you could find a cutting service, or it was that's all the resources that I could get. And I paid $100 for this photocopied book of trim person or button guy. And just, that was kind of all the resources that were there at the time. So now you can just Google where to make this in Los Angeles, and there's a million references. But
it's funny when you look back what we could accomplish back then, because now you can learn anything on you. I was at a event this past weekend, and I was asking someone how he learned how to smoke pork butt.
Yeah.
It's actually Dave
Yeah.
Grohl of the Foo Fighters. But I was like,
amazing.
where did you learn how to do that, Dave? And he said,
YouTube.
I mean, you can learn how to do
Yeah.
anything. You can Google
Yeah.
anything. You can find out anything. And it just makes what people did back then so much more impressive, in my opinion.
I had to knock on doors. There was a building downtown. I mean, there's a whole fashion district, and I would just go into the lobby of these buildings, and there's usually like a directory on the wall, and I would just look until it said like sewing service, or some of the lobbies would have some of the tenants in the building would put up like a sign in the lobby of like what they did. So that's how I found my first cutter, and that's how I found my first pattern maker, because I didn't know where else to go.
So for several years, you were kind of, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but you were filling orders. I mean, buyers and department stores were telling you what they wanted. Your recipe was working, and you stayed true to that. Then at some point, you veered off a little bit. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, the last couple of years, fashion is cyclical, and I've been known for my jersey, which is luxurious and cozy and comfortable and flattering and drapey and all these wonderful things. But it also has been the fabric of the moment. And right now it is not the fabric of the moment. So in order to continue to evolve when it's not necessarily that part of my business, which is still incredibly strong and lucrative and important to me, being able to say, I don't only want to be doing this jersey. This doesn't check all the boxes for me. And making a decision to add things like sweaters and linen and twill and canvas and beautiful sheer silk rib t-shirts and other things is not necessarily what people were coming to me for, but felt like it was rounding out, at least in addition to my creative process, it also felt like it was rounding out my wardrobe, because I don't only want to wear a jersey maxi dress. I sometimes do, but sometimes I want to wear a linen trouser and a ribbed t-shirt tucked in. And it's really nice to be able to pick things that still go with my aesthetic. I do soft tailoring trench coats because I'm not going to make a super stiff blazer, because that's not on brand for me. But so being able to evolve the brand in a way that feels totally authentic to me and what I want to wear, but also that my customer base, who's been incredibly loyal, is also with me. They've grown with me, and maybe they also want something different.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I love your jersey dresses, but at some point, if I have 3 or 4, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even if the collar's different or the clasp at the waist or whatever, I want to see other things from you. So you listen to your gut.
So I listen to my gut, even though a lot of my retailers for a while would say, I love what you're doing, but I'm going to stick with the jersey maxi dress. So it took a long time of putting it in front of people before it's really taken off. And now I think jersey is a much smaller percentage of the business that we do, which is very exciting because it gives me this ability to pivot and yet to still stay true to that customer. And, today I'm wearing a twill shirt dress. It's pretty masculine for something that I do, but it's still drapey and
it's done in your
flattering.
way, though. Like
it's
I
done
said
in
at the
my
beginning.
way. It's still a shirt dress,
it's
but
not
it's
cut
still
like
draped.
it's not cut for a man. I mean,
No.
that's what's hard for me is when I get into like the men's cut of the androgynous lines that are out there. I still want it in some way to feel feminine.
Yeah, that doesn't work for my curves, so I don't do it.
Right.
I like something that kind of grazes the body and you can still see your waist and is really kind of still has like a luxe feel and also comfortable, because that's important to me.
We talked about that. We were both talking about how years ago being stylish involved being uncomfortable, whether your toes were being jammed in a very pointy shoe or you were walking on your tiptoes, or you were just packed into something with Spanx and you couldn't breathe. You're sitting down at dinner. You want to eat this lovely meal, but you're like, there's no room for your stomach to move.
I'm glad that my idea of beauty has evolved past that. And I'm happily wearing my flat sandals today. And I think that making sure that I design for women to wear and not just to admire is really important. And also, there's a lot of ways to be beautiful.
Do you think that sort of veering away from the I have to be in pain to be stylish and feel beautiful is something that you reach in age? Is that as you get older, you're sort of more accepting of your own human nature. We don't want to be uncomfortable, or we're just owning who we are. Like, this is what I look like. This is how I look when I feel good. Deal with it? Or is it, do you think it's, because I'm finding more and more women expressing that, or is that sort of part of the female empowerment movement that we're seeing, where we're chucking these traditions, these conventions about what beautiful is, whether it's a body type or style, or it's the way we have to attire ourselves. You know, if we're going to a cocktail party, we feel like we have to put on a 3-inch heel. Those kind of things, I see women bucking those conventions.
It's about time.
What's causing that, do you think?
Well, I feel like with a lot of my friends, we're in our late 30s, we're mothers, we're already like at this point, what I feel like the idea of you have to look a certain way to prove that you are worthy is just different. And I hope that it's part of this big global discussion that's happening that's long overdue about women being able to dress for themselves and not just this idea of what's sexy. And I think one of the great things, we were talking about the good and the bad about Instagram, but one of the great things is that there are images of body positivity everywhere that are accessible. I mean, not everything in your feed has to be a perfect size 2 bikini body. It can be just this whole range of women. And it also connects people through a community of more natural living or motherhood, glorifying motherhood in like a realistic sneaker type of way and not just in a...
I think the whole wellness movement contributes to that as well,
too.
As much as female empowerment. I was talking to just recently a lady, Gail Becker, who started this company called Cauliflower, which are these gluten-free pizzas. And she was telling the story about how, you know, back when she worked for this big PR marketing firm, Edelman, she had to go into meetings with like honking heels, you know, and in fact, every time I saw her socially or professionally, she'd be wearing these sky-high heels. And then she started her own company and she just thought, I need to be able to move. I need to be able to move fast. It wasn't, and she was just like, whereas heels always made her feel powerful, wearing them was really holding her back in this new entrepreneurial thing. And she's like, kicked them off. And instead of feeling unattractive or, you know, not as powerful, she felt more empowered because she's like, I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
You know what?
I like that.
Yeah, I love that story too. It really resonated with me.
Yeah, I sold some of my my Louboutin, like my stilettos that I had in my 20s, and I sold them on eBay and I bought a gorgeous pair of flats. And I was like, this is the new me. I can still have very beautiful, chic things.
100%.
But they don't have to be... I don't have to like take a deep breath and like force them on and then like be, I mean, I picked a fight with my husband in New York a couple months ago because we
I love it how we do that sometimes.
Car, like a block too early for the restaurant we were going to, and it was cobblestones, and I thought my shoes were fine, and instead I was like stumbling and miserable, and I felt like I was going to get to the restaurant missing 2 toes, and for some reason, you know, like that was his fault, like he picked those shoes for me. Of course he didn't, but they just, you know, it's nice. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You can just like walk to your dinner.
So
have a really great time. Keep all your toes.
So you decided to get into maternity, which I find interesting. Pea in the Pod. You said that's been a really great account for you. It's been a great
account. Since the beginning, we've been doing, well, I didn't necessarily market it as maternity 15 years ago, but because of the nature of the jersey and that it is cut for women's bodies and can grow along with a belly, we've just always catered to maternity customers. So there's always been some business that's been existing. But in the last couple of years, Pea in the Pod has made a big push to grow, and we're a really great partner with them. And so that's amazing because it's nice to be able to make clothes for women of all phases of life. And I'm a mother. I've been pregnant twice, and I was very grateful to have my clothes to get me through that period comfortably.
Answer this for me. It always felt like when I was buying from a Pea in the Pod back when I was pregnant, that things were priced more expensive. Like it would be like I'd see a blouse, let's say a Rachel Pally blouse in Neiman Marcus that would be $80, but Pea in the Pod would have something similar for $120. It wasn't like preposterous, but is that true? Or maternity, is there a markup just because you're pregnant and you're designing for maternity? Are your things in there more expensive?
Our prices are the same there, but I know that maybe for smaller, Also, they probably do more volume now than before, but I used to have to do more customizing of the styles. They'd want to add more to this area or shorten things. And if it had to get customized and they weren't doing the same volume, then that would be more expensive for a designer to produce. But I think that they're probably neck and neck with the other. I mean, also now everything is price checked. You can just Google it and there it is. So I think people have more of a checks and balances as far as like making sure that they're not outpricing themselves with their competitors.
Do you think you're ambitious?
Yeah, I do. Not as ambitious as I was in my 20s. Now I want to be able to have time with my kids and um so the ceiling that I feel like is my goal has changed,
What is the ceiling? What is your
I
ultimate
don't
goal?
uh, my ultimate goal is to be able to spend time with my kids, send them to the schools that feel right, make sure that I can pay for their college without them going into debt, take family vacations, live in a beautiful home. I don't feel like I have the craziest, loftiest goals, but I did have a lot of success very young, and I was able to buy a house when I was 24 in Los Feliz in a wonderful neighborhood of Los Angeles. And so I really did start already I started my career pretty on a high note. So I think that at a certain, and that was before I have a successful husband who's like also entrepreneurial and is always on the rise. So I feel like I just don't need to have world domination. I just want to be able to have an easy, beautiful life with my family.
When we were speaking before we went on the air, I was asking you this just shows you what I know about retail, like nothing. I was saying, oh, well, what's the big account you want now? You're in Neiman's, you're in, Planet Blue and all these stores. What's the next big? And you looked straight at me and you said, it's not getting in those stores. It's growing my website, because that's how a designer, without the middleman, is really grows their business, is when people are buying off
Yeah.
your website, right?
Yeah. And also then that way I get to tell the story I want to tell with my clothes. I get to publish the photos that I feel speak to what I want to do, or style it the way that I feel like it should be styled. And, I look on certain websites that carry our stuff, which I'm very grateful to, but then sometimes they'll put on a dress that's supposed to be off the shoulder, but the shoulders are up, and then they don't reshoot it. And if they have a hard time selling it, or sometimes
Do you ever get in there and micromanage it? Do you ever call them?
Yeah, of course I do, but they don't necessarily reshoot it, because it's a whole machine that gets to the point where it ends up online. There's so many hands it has to pass through. So to get a store to reshoot something because I think that it isn't flattering the angle that they did, it's kind of an uphill battle. So at least when it's on our website, it's photos that I believe in, it's styling I believe in, it's models that feel like they represent my brand. And also that gives me it gives me an opportunity to really have dialogue with my customer, instead of it coming through 10 rounds of information before it gets to me. I actually just get emails straight from my customers, and I feel like that's a great way for me to make sure I'm catering to my shoppers.
What skill do you possess that you feel you can credit much of your success to?
Guts. I don't know if that's not a skill, but I think seeing the big picture, overseeing a team. I don't do this by myself. That's insane. I have an amazing team. I have 22 people who put their blood, sweat, and tears into this business as much as I do. And without them, this wouldn't be possible. I think that I have an eye for style that is specifically me, and I'm true to it. And I really won't put something out there that I don't believe in. And I think that being able to work as a team is my key to success, because there's no way that I could handle the shipping and the invoicing and the fabric sourcing and the production and the fittings and the PR and the outreach and just team management without a team.
I don't know about you, but I really think too, when you get to a certain level, there's some beauty in letting it go. In other words, there have been times in my life where I can't let stuff go. Like I feel like I have to be in on everything, and there's something imperfect and I want to redo it, and it just stays with me and festers. And there's something really healthy about being able to say, I can't do that. This didn't work, but I'm not going to go all cuckoo crazy about it with emails and following up. And you kind of pick the roads that you should go down to be most effective.
Yes, you absolutely can't do everything. So I think that at a certain point in any business, you have to be able to delegate. Otherwise, you'll reach a capacity and you can't grow past that point. So also picking the things that, trying to only worry about the things that you can fix and letting things go if they're out of your control. I used to just panic about whether I'd get to UPS in time for their 5 o'clock cutoff. And or if like a package wasn't delivered, things that are like, I can't control that. That's not something I can fix. So being able to say, if that package doesn't arrive, life will go on. It's okay. And feeling like doing the best you can do and not worrying about the small stuff is pretty much the only way you can grow in a business.
Are you like many working moms who sometimes fantasize about what it would like to be a stay-at-home mom, full-time mom? You want to think about that?
Yes. No, I have never wanted to fantasize about that. I have fantasized about like having a slower life. And, we were just in Oregon for a week over the summer and it was beautiful weather. And I was like, I'm going to move to a farmhouse and make jam. But then it rains 10 months out of the year and I would hate that. So that would be a really wonderful 3 days, but not my life. And I love my kids so much, but so much about what makes me is what I do. And I can't imagine, especially having had such a satisfying career since I was 22. That's 16 years for me. And walking away from that, I feel like I love my children so much. There's no greater gift in my whole life than motherhood. But part of what makes me a good mother is that I'm also a businesswoman, I think, and that I set this example for my kids that working hard is satisfying and exciting and affords us a life that we do get to spend a lot of time together and we do get to have adventures and, but I do have a close support system. I have my parents and my in-laws are both local. So
that all makes it
easier. That is a total
Not
game
easy,
changer.
but easier. Absolutely. Look, when you're a working mom like you are, you need a team. It takes a village. It really does.
My parents have been in Europe on a vacation for 3 weeks. Like I told them the other day, this is your final vacation
in life.
You are never allowed to go away again. You can have weekends. That's it.
Rachel, we have a lot of women listeners who are looking at crafting their next chapter. Some are stay-home moms who are looking at entering the workforce or just, taking on a project. It doesn't have to be a money-making project. And others are just looking at a change. What can we take away or learn from your story?
Well, I just want to be clear that I understand. I feel like being a stay-at-home mom is an incredibly satisfying and wonderful choice for a lot of women. I have no judgment about that. So I didn't want my quick no to come across as judgy.
I thought it was a decisive no, not a judgmental no.
My nanny,
Honestly.
who I also couldn't do my job without, called out on Friday. So I was home with the kids and I was literally looked like a crazy person by the end of the day. It is such a hard job, which is also, I feel like for me, going to work is an easier life for me than dealing with my two boys who are like constantly.
Well, your kids are very young.
Wild.
And I've been to your house and I know how wild they are. There's a lot going on there.
There's nonstop. They are nonstop action.
I had two boys too, though, very close in age. And there's
no sitting and coloring that happens in our house, like ever, unless it's
Girls
on a wall and
so
someone
different.
turns around for a second. Yeah, so different. But I just think following your path is so important and staying true to who you are. I feel like I lost the question because I was going back to the...
no, that's okay. We just, what can we take away or learn from your story?
It's hard that, I don't know.
How about being driven by passion?
Yeah, I'm definitely driven by passion.
You have a passion for design.
I have a passion for design and I have a passion for my independence. And I feel like if it wasn't design, it would have been something working for myself. My parents worked for themselves. It allowed us to have a lot of flexibility and someone was available if my brother or I were sick and we were able to travel as a family. Those are all things so I knew that I wanted to work for myself. And I think just deciding what path you want to be on, and you can't be on a path that you don't believe in. So I feel very grateful.
One last question. What about someone who aspires to be a designer? What would you say to them?
I would say it's a very cutthroat business. You have to have a thick skin. Not all of the feedback can hit you deep in your core. You have to be able to say, okay, someone didn't like that, and the clothes I make aren't who I am, and to be able to hear no, because that is part of the job. Also, get an internship. It's the best way to learn more than just, so much about being a designer is not about designing, and making sure that if you can intern for a company where you see a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes is a really helpful way to figure out where you want to fit into the business. And
would getting an MBA be something that, like, is that something you wish you'd gotten just to know more about the business aspects, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. I think that, I don't even have a fashion degree. So I think that part of going to school for anything is to learn how to think and solve problems and ask questions and present ideas in a clear and concise way and work with the team. Those are all things that I got from my geography degree that I don't use, and yet I use them every day. And I think I don't necessarily think you need to have. There's a lot of people who have found success in a less conventional way these days. And I think that, but if you feel like getting an MBA would give you the confidence to start a business, if I needed to raise capital, or those are things that I don't have to do in my everyday life.
We should point out that you're self-funded.
Yeah,
you own 100% of your company. So,
yes, I started with $300 from babysitting money. No one has ever given my company any injections of capital. This has just been.
Do you think that might change?
Maybe. It's a different time. I feel like 5 years ago, I would have said absolutely not. But now, maybe if that would be the way to help grow it to a point where I was able to be exposed to more, a larger audience, then maybe I would say yeah.
Rachel Pally, I've enjoyed getting to know you better. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Linda.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us. If you like what you hear, hit subscribe. New episodes of SheSez will automatically be downloaded. And quite frankly, when you're a subscriber, it's a lot easier to listen while you're driving the car or walking the dog. You can tap your podcast app and simply hit play. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, write a review. It takes a minute and will help us stay alive. Just tap where it says see more episodes. Scroll down to the very bottom and you'll see where you can fill in the stars. We'd love 5, of course, and write a review. Don't forget to press send. Thanks again, and we'll see you with a new episode next Tuesday.